I want to share something about myself that I've never said publicly. I have a lot of keyboards. Oh, you noticed? I don't have a problem, okay? I can stop whenever I want. Hey, you know what? I once knew a guy who had like 500 pairs of sneakers. At least my addiction is cool. Don't get off topic before the video even starts, just bring it back. Anyway, this video is not about the synths and keyboards that I have. In this video, I'm going to take a walk down memory lane and revisit the gear that I used to have, but for one reason or another, got rid of. Maybe I didn't like it, maybe I just hated lugging it around. There's any number of reasons why you end up parting with gear. And it's often a little emotional and nostalgic because the art that we make and whole eras of our lives as artists are wrapped up in these objects. So this video is every synth and keyboard I've ever sold, why I sold it, and how much I regret it on a scale from 1 to 10. Yo, you know how in Toy Story the kid has his like favorite toy and then he gets a new toy and then the first toy feels like sad and abandoned? Do you think our synths feel sad and abandoned when we get bored and stop playing them?
Oh my god, that's hilarious. I've never thought of that before, dude. That's trippy. If I was high right now, I would just immediately be like tripping out by that.
Okay, starting from the very beginning, the first synth I ever bought was a Mikrokorg. Got it when I was like 15, played it in the first iteration of my keyboard rig with my band, and sold it after a few years when I started getting into real synths. God, I already sound like a dick. I'm sorry, the Mikrokorg is totally a real synth. I have respect for it. It's decent, it's cheap, it's good for beginners. It was my first synth, and it'll always have a special place in my heart. But I mean, you know, I'm not gonna play those like little salamander keys for the rest of my life. The Mikrokorg is like, it's like a gateway drug. It's like synth puberty. It's like your first email address, you know? Like, eventually it's time to move on from being greenslimeskater@AOL.com. I'm gonna have to give this one a regret level of 0.3. I don't miss it. Moving on, when I was at Berkeley, I got really obsessed with the Fender Rhodes sound, and I really wanted a Fender Rhodes. So I bought one off of a guy on Craigslist. It was actually in really good condition, and I bought it for literally under $1,000. All the keys worked, and the key action itself like felt pretty good, which is like my number one complaint about old refurbished Fender Rhodes is that the key action is like sluggish and inconsistent and weird, but this one actually felt good. I played it at one show in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and just the experience of having to carry that thing down the street and load it into a venue traumatized me to the point that I sold it not too long after that. Regret level, 9.4. It was a good Rhodes for a good price, and now it's hard to find a good Rhodes for a good price. I replaced that with a Nord Electro 2, the reason being I thought that that was sort of like the best Rhodes sound that could be achieved without actually having Rhodes. I might have been right about that at the time, but the Nord Electro did this dumb thing where instead of drawbars for the organ, it had these buttons, and it's like, you need drawbars if you're playing an organ. What the hell are these buttons? Anyway, good keyboard, but that only didn't last that long because it ended up breaking, and the person who I bought it from still had Guitar Center Pro coverage on it, so I was able to get a refund. I don't regret getting rid of that because it was broken and I had to, but it would be cool to play a Nord again. Maybe someday. After the Nord, I had a Korg SV-1, which I loved, and I had it for years, and it was the centerpiece of my rig with my band. To this day, I think I maintain that of all the hardware keyboards out there, so like not VSTs, the Korg SV-1 probably has the best Rhodes sound out there. You can debate me in the comments if you don't agree, but that's my take. I paired the Korg with the Roland Juno DI for synth stuff in my band. That was a good combo. At the time, the Roland Juno DI is one of these keyboards, kind of like the Yamaha Montage, that has like 1,000 digital sounds and they're all like fine, like they get the job done. And those two keyboards, the Korg SV-1 and the Roland Juno DI, that was like my rig with my band for years. At a certain point, I added a Moog Taurus III bass foot pedal unit to the mix, like right when the Taurus came out. I remember my hand like shaking as I clicked buy on that because it was so expensive. I had this vision of myself doing dope like two-hand and foot stuff, and I did do some of that actually. They have this like wheel to the right where, you know, you could like open the filter or something like that, but like you're doing it with like your right foot while your left foot is playing notes, and it's like, I don't want to be opening the filter with my foot. That's just not how I want to open my filter. I played it with a MIDI controller up top, so like MIDI controller connected to the Taurus, playing with my left hand, but at a certain point I realized that that was totally backwards. I realized that what I need is MIDI foot pedals and a synth to be the actual sound generator for my left hand. So I sold the Taurus, actually for a little bit more than I bought it for, which is always good, and I replaced it with the Roland Vk-8M MIDI foot pedals at my feet and a Novation Bass Station 2 on my left hand, connecting the two with a MIDI cable. So The foot pedals were just the MIDI controller, and the Novation bass station was the actual sound generator. That was a great combo. Regret level on the Taurus pedals? 0.2. But at a certain point, I ended up selling every part of this rig. The foot pedals I sold because I guess I was just not playing enough foot synth bass to justify keeping them around. Shocking, I know. The Juno DI I sold because I got a Sequential Prophet 6, and then I was like, oh, this is a real synth. What am I doing with this thing? The Korg SV-1 I ended up selling because although it's really good for like Rhodes, Wurlitzer, piano kinds of sounds, it's really not good for synth and organ sounds. Not because they don't sound good, but honestly just because the keys are so heavily weighted. Like, I'm not playing an organ with weighted keys. Who do you think I am? Ugh, what do you think this is? Gonna have to go with a regret level of 3 on the MIDI foot pedals. They were cool, but not cool enough for me to want another set. The Korg SV-1, I don't regret it, but I do miss it. Like, I had a lot of nostalgia and memories wrapped up in that keyboard because it was my main keyboard in my band for years. That thing was with me in the era of my life where it was like me and my friends traveling around the Northeast in a van, playing shows and festivals, and those were good memories. And there's always that moment when, like, I'm selling the thing and the person's handing me the money and I'm handing them the thing that I'm like, but you can't just keep stuff around that you don't need. You need new stuff, you know? You gotta make room in your life so you can keep acquiring new possessions.
Consume, consume, consume.
And that brings us to the Hammond organ saga, which started when I saw Medeski, Martin, and Wood play in Philly. I saw John Medeski play that Hammond, and I was like, I need to do that. So I started buying and selling a series of digital organs, trying to find the right thing for me, and that story ends with this thing behind me, but it was a long and winding road. Okay, so quick aside, my friend was driving my car, and he got rear-ended. I got a bunch of insurance money. Instead of replacing my car, I bought my first organ, which was a Hammond XK-1. Thanks, Geico. The XK-1 sounded good, but I hated the key action. It was just like sluggish and weird, and I couldn't do my stuff, and it would make my arms hurt. Ended up selling that, don't regret it. Then I got this little weird thing called the Roland Vk-8M, which is like this little organ module. So it's basically just a module with drawbars, and you hook it up via MIDI to another keyboard, and you play it that way. That thing was okay, but the thing about cheap organs is that I don't even know how to describe this, but like something about the way that the frequencies of the drawbars interact with each other. Like if it's not a good organ, then there's just this dissonance and it sounds like off and weird and bad. Sold that, no regrets. Next, I got a Korg BX-3, which is this big beast of a thing, and it didn't sound that great, and I hated lugging it around, so I sold that too. Then I got a Hammond Sk-1. And out of all the digital organs that I had owned, this was the only one that I found to be basically adequate. So at this point, I've been through all these organs, and I'm thinking to myself, what's up with digital organs? Do they all just suck? And the answer is, yes. Digital organs just suck. There's just something about the power and richness of a real organ, and the way that a Leslie speaker throws the air around the room, and the way it distorts and crunches, and they just haven't managed to nail that digitally yet. And now I have these two, an A100 and a Leslie speaker, and it's the shit. I never intended to become a real organ and Leslie guy, but here we are.
Girls, you know you better watch out. Some guys are only alone.
Okay, now we're into the modern era where I'm traveling a bunch, touring all around with Lauryn Hill and the Fugees and the Marleys, and the first keyboard that I got to sort of handle that situation was the Yamaha ModX. The Yamaha ModX was good for that situation because, once again, it was one of these keyboards that sort of had 1,000 sounds and they were all good enough. I wasn't in love with any of the sounds, but that thing is like a Swiss Army knife of a keyboard, and that kind of thing is good for a touring situation. If for no other reason, then sometimes you just need a keyboard that can do everything in case some other part of my rig fails. Plus the rest of my rig was a bunch of analog stuff like the Sequential Prophet X and the Arturia Polybrute 12. And the great thing about the ModX is that it has the ability to send out MIDI program change messages to the entire rest of my rig. I've talked about this on the channel before, but you could like hit a button and the whole rest of your keyboard rig snaps to the right patches. And that's super handy if you're playing a lot of complicated sounds. But I did end up selling it to upgrade to the Yamaha Montage. I actually regret doing that because I loved how the ModX was like light and I could carry it around on my back. I carry that thing all over the world, on planes, through airports, everywhere. You can't do that with a Montage just because it's heavier and bigger. And it's not like the Montage like has a bunch of better sounds either. I mean, it has this like ANX analog engine thing, but I don't find it incredibly convincing. Montage just doesn't do anything all that more than the ModX that like is meaningful to me. Regret level 7. I really wish I just stayed with the ModX. Then there was the Sequential Prophet X. I was really excited about this thing when it first came out. Basically, it's kind of like the synth engine from the Prophet, but then with this whole like sample layer that you can also process through the synth engine. In theory, it's really cool, and I did like a lot of the patches. I don't know what was up with this synth. I just didn't find myself using it all that much. You know, actually, you know what it is? It's almost like everything that it could do is better done by a VST. Yeah, it's sort of like a hardware synth that like just should have been a VST instead. The Prophet X was actually a big part of my rig with Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill herself actually very nicely bought it for me. One day we were at rehearsal and she was like, if anybody in the room has any like gear that they think would enhance what's going on or needs to be part of the sound, let me know. And it was right when the Prophet X came out and I was like, there's this one synth, and she ended up getting it for me. That was really, really cool of her. But like I said, it just, for whatever reason, was never quite hitting for me, and after a while I got rid of it. Regret level 1.3. I feel like the part of selling gear that nobody talks about is that like, there's always that like one patch on the synth that like you just love and you can't recreate it on another synth, and once you sell it, it's just gone and you'll never hear that patch again. Like in my band, there's this one part of a song that I always played on the Juno DI, and then when I sold it, it gets to that part and I'm just perpetually like, oh, I got rid of the thing.